This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. Hey Darklings, Kaylin here. We know our generation has a surplus of pretty darkness in common, and if there's one thing unpacking our upbringing has taught us, it's just how essential therapy is for shining a flashlight on the darkness in our own lives. I don't know where I'd be without mine. I believe every human can benefit from the perspective of a licensed therapist. Whether you're familiar with your own inner workings or you're just looking for a listening ear, you can give BetterHelp online therapy a try by going to betterhelp.com/prettydark and receive 10% off your first month. I get that online therapy can be tricky, but I've been seeing my therapist online since 2020, and I'm here to tell you that it's absolutely worth it. Getting started is always the hardest part, and BetterHelp makes that easy. You can begin right from your phone or computer in whatever way makes you most comfortable, via good old-fashioned phone calls, video chats, or even messaging, if that's more your style. We enjoy this frightful nostalgia and learning about how it all connects, but Darklings know we're also passionate about healing and growing from what we learn. If you dare to do the same, head to betterhelp.com/prettydark. There you can answer a few questions, and BetterHelp will match you to a professional who has years of experience helping people like us. Plus, you can switch therapists at any time, so you're sure to find the right connection. Millennials are ditching the stigma and owning our mental health. And with BetterHelp, you can build a relationship with a professional all from the comfort of your own home, just how we like it. Visit betterhelp.com/prettydark or choose That's Pretty Dark podcast during sign up and enjoy 10% off your first month. That's betterhelp.com/prettydark.
You're listening to That's Pretty Dark,
The podcast where we talk about all the entertainment that scared us as children
and still haunts us as adults. So grab your flashlight and join us as we take a frightfully nostalgic look over our shoulders
and under our beds
and in our closets.
And together we'll realize, whoa, that's pretty dark. This is a little bit nerve-wracking. We'll see.
I was very clear with him about how I begin every single edit angry.
Yeah.
Hating everything, everyone, and then I edit the episode until I'm no longer angry. I don't hate anyone anymore.
Which is a good process, I think. It's like Michelangelo carving David. You start out in a bad place, and eventually you see it.
You start off with a very specific size penis in your mind.
Yeah.
And then you just keep whittling and whittling and whittling until it's so small compared to the rest of his body.
Yes.
And
everyone is better for it because...
You feel better about yourself because of how small it is. And you say, if David's penis is that small, I'm doing fine.
Yeah.
I'm doing great. And you have to believe that that's God's word.
And that's how you come out on the other side.
God intervened and told you how small David's penis was. Mm-hmm. So you feel good about yourself because you feel like you're basically an apostle at that point. You've seen things that no one else has seen.
Until now.
And you get to share it with the world.
Until now.
You guys are listening to That's Pretty Dark. My name is Christian.
My name is Kaylin.
And we're talking to our new editor because we've hired someone new.
To the That's Pretty Dark team.
So let us know how much he sucks.
We hope and pray that you all will appreciate him just as much as you appreciated editing Christian.
He was a good guy. You know, he's kind of like my innie, you know?
I've thought that before. Your innie, yeah.
I'm severed, he's my innie, I'm the outie. But why is it I remember all the pain he's gone through? Why do I have the nightmares that you're not supposed to have when you're severed?
Man, we got a lot to say about nightmares today because this whole episode feels a bit like a nightmare.
Jump into those spooky walls.
Ladies, gents, gentle thems, gentle theys.
I'm leaping into the future.
We are leaping together into the episode, which is Are You Afraid of the Dark? Season 2, Episode 7, We think. Shrug. Don't know. Shrug emoji.
Who knows anything?
The Tale of the Whispering Walls.
Yeah.
This aired on either July 13th via IMDb or August 14th, Wikipedia.
Oh, interesting.
No, I say Wikipedia. I'm incorrect. The Are You Afraid of the Dark wiki.
Oh, I see. Yes.
So we don't know which. It was in the summer of 1993. That's as much as we know.
It either just continued the season or it was after a mid-season break, which would have come midsummer.
Yeah.
Seems
one
like.
Or the other. And on that note, the order of season 2 gets very unclear from this point forward. Mm-hmm. So please just bear with us as we continue to try and figure out what they were thinking. But The Tale of the Whispering Walls was written by Alison Leah Benjamin, the same writer that we just talked about from The Tale of Dark Dragon.
The man who binges.
And it was directed by the man, the myth, DJ McHale.
The DJ. The McHale.
I am going to confess something to you right here and right now.
Oh, yeah. I am in a closet. It kind of feels like a confession booth. What are those called?
A confessional.
A confessional? I'm not Catholic. I have no idea.
Yikes. Yeah, it might as well be a confessional because I didn't write a summary. And I didn't even pull one from IMDb.
Whoa! Because
this episode is so chaotic. I thought that it deserved a real-time summary from us together collectively.
Okay. That's funny because I did look up this episode just to confirm that it was the next one in the season. And there were multiple different summaries for it on every different platform. And it doesn't even sound like the same episode.
Because there are so many things you could choose to focus on.
This one's way out of left field. Way down the wrong highway.
But my attempt would be something along the lines of the Midnight Society gang celebrates an oft overlooked holiday, Leap Day, February 29th, by way of a story that Betty Ann feels very passionate about. And in this story,
she's on Kristen's level.
The spirits that we commune with all have their own unique qualities.
Sure do.
Contained within the walls of an old Canadian manor that truly just confuses and astounds all that enter and all that look upon it.
I think it baffles. I think it combobulates. It discombobulates.
It discombobulates.
Wait, can you be combobulated if you're discombobulated?
I think that's the default state, yes.
You can be overwhelmed and you can be underwhelmed, but can you just be whelmed?
I've never been combobulated, so I wouldn't know.
I want to be combobulated.
Please, combobulate me.
I like it.
So yeah, that's the closest that I got. I
dig it. It's confusing.
You never know what you're going to get. You never knew what my next sentence would be in that summary, and you never know what the next scene is going to be. So I thought it was fitting.
Come on, guys. Full moon on a leap year. Watch out.
What's that supposed to mean?
Tonight's the night the spirits are free to take innocent victims away.
Oh, come on. You made that up.
We open on most of the Midnight Society trekking through the woods to the campfire. David seems to be in on Betty Ann's gag for the evening, informing us right out of the gate that we should watch out.
Do you think he was actually part of the gag, or do you think David just knows about leap year folklore?
I really don't know. It could be that they've chatted about it in past and he now knows this, but I have this strong belief that Betty Ann is the arbiter of this folklore.
Yeah.
She's the one that knows this and she's the one that brought it to the attention of any of them.
I'm sure you're going to tell us, but I was not aware there was any folklore to do with the leap year.
I wasn't either, and yes, we have a lot to say about that.
I'm pumped.
As the gang rounds the corner, they stop short, gaping at a hooded figure standing stoic near the fire.
A hooded figure.
The camera lingers just a little too long, and it is admittedly unsettling.
That's it, I'm out of here.
Wait.
I would be spooked at first too, and in our modern world, we talk about this sometimes with our fears around kids gathering in the woods for this ritual.
Sure.
It's entirely possible that some creep stalked them to the story site.
It's always possible, every time.
It's always a possibility, and I always have to wonder, is this the time?
This is the 90s,
The stranger danger.
Yeah, stranger danger.
They went off into the woods with kids, and a lot of them got away with it.
Oh, too real, Kaylin Andrews.
But the figure then slowly turns toward the kids, revealing a skeletal mask with empty eyes, wearing a permanent grimace.
It's very Dia de Muertos.
It kind of is.
In a way.
Guys?
The figure unmasks, revealing Betty Ann underneath.
Betty Ann?
But true to form, she stays in character, and her soft smile and unblinking stare are scarier than the mask itself.
Is this the night where Betty Ann just pulls out a knife and murders everyone?
This mask, within this circle, is our only protection.
Sounds like a pretty dumb joke to me.
You don't have to believe me, but it's an old superstition. My story takes place on February 29th, leap year. It happens every 4 years, and when it comes with a full moon, watch out. The spirits who prowl on a full moon leap year are hunting, and it may be for you.
Very ominous, Betty Ann.
As we were saying, before we even get into Betty Ann's story, she has brought us some deep lore to unpack.
She sure has.
First is her mention of this mask and its protection within the circle. And we're familiar around these parts with apotropaic magic. And we've even talked about faces in an apotropaic context when you taught us about jack-o'-lanterns in our Halloween episode back in the day, and even discussing gargoyles as recently as the Halloween tree.
Warding off dark spirits, evil spirits, anything
Exactly.
that sees the face, finds it scarier than themselves,
Than they are.
then they bolt off into the night.
This is an ancient practice of masks to protect the wearer, or to ward off the evil spirits, or like you said, to scare off anything that it can.
I think we all need to bring back the paper mache arts and crafts scene.
I remember being really bad at it the times that I've tried, but I do appreciate a good paper mache.
I mean, because we were given like school instruction paper mache.
And Elmer's glue.
We weren't exactly given the tools
Masters of
we
the
needed
craft.
to be the best at paper mache.
I think what Betty Ann is doing and illustrating here, though it took me a minute to connect the dots, is tying in several kinds of apotropaic and transformative magic, knowing the sinister shapeshifting that we encounter later in this episode. Her use of the mask does seem to be protective, in the sense that it's meant to confuse whatever spirits might come a-hunting, but it's also serving to foreshadow other elements of her story. Per a list of magic mask types from whitedragon.org.uk, including ritual and narrative masks, which this could also be, with a little more liberty taken. This could be like a ritual mask or like a narrative mask. The lines are thin between the mask types in magic.
Sure.
But transformatory masks express changes, maybe the ability to change shape or identity, or even the changes that a person goes through in a day or a lifetime. In its shape-changing aspect, this is probably the most familiar mask form. It is causing the wearer to appear to be, or appear to transform into, something or someone else.
All right. Okay.
While many of us may mask figuratively to stay protected or accepted in society, or for peace or freedom via a degree of anonymity, there are those who might use the literal or figurative freedom that masks provide for more deceptive or brutal or even criminal purposes.
The ski mask.
The ski mask.
Or like how much I loved wearing a mask to go to the store during COVID because I felt
I still do it.
so anonymous.
I don't need anybody to know who I am at the Walmart, you know?
My mask and my AirPods, dude, I was set.
I still do that. It's great.
It's the best.
It helps a lot, actually. But obviously, masks can be used for good and evil, like most else. And when you can't trust someone's true identity, human or spirit, and you are the one left confused, things can get scary quick.
Oh, for sure.
And we'll be discussing more on this later. We'll also have more to say about Leap Day. But for now, they kept saying leap year over and over, despite specifically mentioning February 29th. And I kept being like, you just mean the day, right? Like you mean leap day. Leap day.
Okay, yeah, you're right.
Because there are 12 full moons every year, even the leaps. Does this happen 12 times in a leap year, or do you mean the leap day? And I'm inclined to think that they just mean the day.
They just mean the day, but from a perspective of like buzzword,
Leap day didn't have the same ring as leap year.
like no one really knew leap day. They knew leap year.
You don't think?
I don't think so.
I feel like I did.
I knew about leap years.
But maybe they're just saying in a leap year on February 29th, because they never say leap day in the episode.
One second.
He's Googling.
Look no further than the 2010 Amy Adams, Matthew Good film, Leap Year.
Oh,
It wasn't called
I can't
Leap
believe you had to
Day.
Google that.
It
Are
wasn't
you
called
kidding me?
Leap Day. It was called Leap Year, Kaylin. So
I referenced that movie later, okay? It's one of my favorites.
seriously,
I don't want to not make plans with you. I want to make plans with you.
we've been talking about
Declan. He's
Severance.
dreamy.
Adam Scott, anybody?
Oh, yeah, and Adam Scott. Adam Scott's in there.
John Lithgow. He's about to be the new Dumbledore
No
in the
way.
new Harry Potter series. Yeah, John Lithgow.
Oh, I can see him in his Dexter.
I'm really pumped. He's great.
Oh,
I love
can see him
him.
in his Dexter. But I can't believe you had to Google leap year.
Leave me alone on the Googling, okay? I've had a long few weeks. My brain is not what it used to be. It's mush. It's garbage right now. I'm doing the best I can.
From your closet.
Spooky black-walled closet.
All that being said, we're just going to assume on this episode here together today, for their purposes, they do indeed mean February 29th, which is, in my mind, leap day.
This is true.
Not just leap year. Because like I said, there could be 12 full moons in a leap year.
Right. I've actually never fully understood why we had a leap year.
Oh, I'm going to tell you everything.
Are you? Okay, well then we won't get there yet, but...
I have all of that. I have all of the information you could ever want to know on leap year. And we will get to that in my conclusion.
For context, last year was a leap year.
Mm-hmm.
This year...
So we missed the boat on telling y'all about leap year.
We did. We missed the boat.
We did.
If we hadn't done Courage and had so much fun doing Courage, we would have been probably on track. But it is February 28th next week.
Mm-hmm. Indeed.
So it would be, if this were a leap year, you would have a leap day while listening to this episode.
You would be, but alas, this is
Not
2025.
Not quite.
For now, though, I'll let you know. We only get a full moon on leap day, February 29th, about once every century.
Oh, wow.
And this discovery that I made throws a wrench into a couple of the episode's other conventions. The last time this happened was not in 1993, but in 1972.
Okay.
And we've got another one coming up in 2048. So,
wow.
Watch out.
We did this same kind of math when we covered Hocus Pocus with the whole, how often is there a full moon on Halloween?
Yes. Yeah. Same deal. It's just with leap day, you only get a chance at it every 4 years. So
yeah.
It's pretty rare.
That's wild.
Turns out.
That's wild.
Betty Ann, hyped on leap year magic as she is, tosses her coffee mate into the fire, and away we go.
Submitted for the approval of the Midnight Society, I call this story The Tale of the Whispering Walls.
We meet our in-story characters as they fly down the highway, returning from an amusement park, one that we know all too well.
Very well.
And it doesn't exactly feel like a snowy February Canadian situation, but I digress. We've got babysitter Louise, played by Vivian Liu, Claire, played by Tamar Lee, and Claire's little brother Andrew, played by Ryan Gifford. None of them had very lengthy resumes to speak of, but still, we want to give credit where credit is due.
Of course we do. They all look so familiar, though. I'm sure it's just from watching this as a kid, but I don't particularly remember this episode from my childhood.
Me either.
But these actors, they fit it right in with the 90s.
They do. And I mean, the sibling casting, pretty good. I wasn't bothered by it. Andrew is in the back seat singing the praises of the Laughing in the Dark ride. And he goes, when Zebo jumped out, I almost croaked.
God, it's so good. I love a good Zebo reference.
Claire is automatically unimpressed with his childishness. And at this moment, I don't think he's too obnoxious. He's just recounting something that he enjoyed. But siblings are going to sibling. And if he was my little brother, maybe it would piss me off too.
Siblings be siblinging. It's very Goosebumps. R.L. Stine loves to have the sibling rivalry.
Sibling squabbles. We got to set those up for this episode.
Only to have them, patch their differences, come to an understanding, and they're better off at the end of the episode. Yeah,
and I mean, it's very relatable for kids.
It's a great message for kids.
Because who is your main enemy when you're that age? I know me and my sister were...
Your closest sibling in age, yes.
Louise, apparently full of strange nicknames and phrases, bribes the kids to stop fighting with all-you-can-eat banana splits at their favorite spot, Molly's.
Remember, love is greatest when words are few. What does that mean? It means shut up.
And I hoped that she was quoting some literary great or some really cool movie that I could pull in, but no, this one seems to just be a Louise original, aka Allison.
She's full of wisdom. Full of wisdom.
She pulls over on the roadway, not on the side of the road, but on the roadway to consult a map.
That's strange. I thought the number 9 highway was back there. Isn't that sign supposed to be blue?
But, as in any good horror movie, they shrug and motor on. With perfect Are You Afraid of the Dark universe timing, or perhaps an air of something more ghostly, the wooden sign gives out just as they drive away. It swings on one nail to reveal the actual Highway 9 sign underneath, with the arrow pointing in the opposite direction.
It's just like the Lonely Ghost episode where the for sale sign keeps falling
it keeps
down.
falling down.
She pulls it up and they walk away and it slowly
Yeah, falls back over.
leans back down.
These are ghostly powers at work. And it's a classic road sign reversal, as TV tropes would say.
Oh, nice.
But who is responsible for this reversal?
That creep.
The crew happens upon a small roadside tavern, the Whisper Inn, and since they're not recognizing any of their surroundings, Louise wants to go inside and ask for directions. Outfitted in their distinctly 90s getup, they creep into the abandoned building. All the chairs and stools are flipped up onto the tables as if it's been closed for ages. And just in case you weren't getting the whole dated thing, a wagon wheel is propped up against the counter.
Hello? Hello? Anyone here?
And they're about to turn back when a booming voice greets them from the depths of the room.
Shut that door! I loathe drafts.
This haunt is played by Robert Higdon, who has appeared in dozens of French and English titles, including 2017's Mother.
He was in Mother? Wow.
And 2020's My Salinger Year. Shut that door. I loathe drafts.
He's afraid of wind.
And meanwhile, I'm like, excuse me, but by chance, did your father recently take you into the city to see a marching band? Because Gerard Way, what are you doing here in Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Seriously,
And I know that's my millennial showing. I get it, since the world hadn't yet been graced with that song or that video, and wouldn't be until 2006. But this dude, incredibly pale but for his dark eyes, is decked out in a black and silver marching jacket fit for a black parade.
Certainly so.
I went down an embarrassingly long rabbit hole to learn that the length of this guy's jacket actually represents the rank of an officer, and it was likely from somewhere around the mid-19th century, perhaps maybe late 18th century.
So he's military.
It's a military marching jacket, yes.
Oh, interesting.
And for my fellow emo kids, if you've ever wondered why Mikey Way's jacket was longer than the others in the MCR video, I just learned that that was why. And he's also the only one wearing a medal because he died in the Ghost of You video and he was posthumously decorated.
Oh my God.
And I realize that I'm marching through a very specific Venn diagram right now, and I can only hope that some of you Darklings are here with me.
I'm right here with you. That makes a lot of sense. And I did not know that, but that's fun.
Whenever I read that, I was like, he died in Ghost of You and he has a medal. It sent me.
And here I am just like, nah, it's a rib cage.
It's a spooky skeleton rib cage.
It's a
spooky scary skeletons, Kaylin.
Spooky, scary skeleton. I mean, I don't think that was lost on the costume designer.
Oh, no.
Though.
That I'm sure had a lot to do with the selection.
Yeah.
But
there was an actual reason.
All I could think was, when I was a young boy.
There's a whole backstory to this guy and like his costume choice. Like,
yeah.
How did he become the master of this manor?
He was an officer in the military, so clearly he knows how to command troops.
He clearly is very commanding, but like, do you think he owned the place or did he just die there?
That's the thing. We don't know. There's so much to say about that.
In which war? Is that a Canadian's costume or is that
There's
American?
So much to say.
Because just because everything's filmed in Canada doesn't mean it's meant to be Canadian. It could be.
Doesn't mean that it's meant to be.
Very much the U.S.
True.
Because DJ was a Canadian.
Sorry, we don't mean to bother you, but we're lost.
Lost? You're precisely on time.
Gerard disagrees, approaching them slowly as Andrew examines a wind chime that's hanging inexplicably in the corner of this indoor tavern.
What can we use to make wind a known entity of this story? How about a motorized battery fan and a wind chime?
Perfect.
Nailed it.
They're coming from an amusement park, so the fan...
Makes sense.
That was pretty clever. The wind chime?
I
don't know.
Not so much. But do you love those thick-ass tumbleweeds?
Oh, the tumbleweeds were paid actors. We've got to discuss those as well.
Oh, that's so juicy.
You can tell that he's up to something nefarious, but he tries to keep up the charade.
Highway 9. You've strayed quite far. But I know a shortcut. Take the dirt road outside. It travels through the woods and will cut miles off your trip.
Cut miles off your trip.
Who is this guy? Severus Snape?
Also,
like, did the delay?
The word cut.
It will cut miles of your
They're
ship.
like, give it at least 2 Mississippis, because we really want to understand that you just said the word cut, and cut is like something that knives do and weapons, and a cut is scary. So
cut.
1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi.
Somebody will think you're up to something.
His words are laced with something, clearly. Not quite malice, but almost. And he gestures with his black gloves all the while. Andrew takes this opportunity to use his handheld amusement park fan to blow the wind chimes. And with a burst of energy, we'll call it, the fan is knocked from his hands. And Gerard is now standing way back behind the counter.
Anything else I can do for you?
Louise declines, grabs the kids, and they make their exit, just before we, the audience, catch his quintessential evil laugh.
What a creep. He's just a little eccentric, that's all. Eccentric? What does that mean? It means he was a creep.
The downplaying of the stranger danger.
Yeah, like, we don't want to be mean to this dude, you know? He's just a little eccentric. And also, she's trying to keep the kids, like, chill. She doesn't want them to be afraid.
Yeah.
So, I get it. I got some babysitter instincts myself. Cut to their car emerging from the woods, following the dirt road, now winding next to a huge Victorian mansion. And it promptly dies mere steps from the front door. Those darn gremlins.
Oh, I could fix that place up.
This house looms above them ominously, and automatically my mind played. No living organism can continue for long to exist sanely under conditions of absolute reality. Even larks and katydids are supposed by some to dream.
It's so Hill House.
Indeed, and Hill House, not sane, stood by itself against its hills holding darkness within, and had stood so for 80 years and might stand for 80 more.
God damn.
It gets me.
Shirley Jackson.
My
love.
That whole passage always gives me chills every single time I hear it. I have more of it written in my notes. I could continue. It's just brilliant. Cue If I Go, I'm Going by Gregory Alan Isakov. Like, that's, oh my God, it's so good.
Take me to Hill House. Lay me to rest there.
In real life, this hill house is known as Manoir Thibodeau in Beauharnois, Quebec, Canada.
Okay, so it's Manoir Thibodeau?
It was built in 1895 and is cited as being one of the most imposing manors in the region. You can even look up more pictures of it online. I wasn't clear on whether it was used for any of the interiors, but the exteriors we have pinned here.
I would imagine it was a studio, but
I think a lot of it was, for sure, because they had to build a lot of things, but
they didn't have a massive budget, but
I don't know if they got any moments inside.
Let's ask if we can use their phone.
Louise tells the kids not to move and goes to knock on the door, which opens for her before she even has a chance to touch it, and closes behind her. My thought is, like, probably don't go in the big foreboding manor deep in the woods with a door that magically opens for you. But the car's dead, and after all, there are banana splits on the line.
For sure don't go in alone.
What are you gonna do?
She should be back by now. I'm going in.
And nervous, they argue over who should knock, despite racing and practically running into the door already. But it opens for them as well, with no human behind it. And Claire pulls Andrew in front of her as they enter. I was kind of impressed with the crane shot of their entrance to this house. It's this kind of complex shot revealing dusty boxes and bookshelves, dim corridors, and then the kids walking inside.
Louise?
They yell for Louise and hear a faint creaking upstairs in reply.
Listen. It's her!
And if we weren't getting Hill House vibes before, I don't know what we're getting now.
We sure are now.
Peering down the most haunted mansion hallway I have ever seen, with ornate, empty frames lining the walls, they make their way toward the eerie sound of a music box. And it's funny how we tend to feel in moments like this. There's this logic telling us to, like, call out, you're looking for this person, you're trying to find them in an unfamiliar place. But there's also some deeper, darker instinct dictating that we stay quiet.
My instinct was always to be quiet.
Me too.
Because whatever it was there in the darkness, you didn't want it to let it know you were there.
If it's not Louise, then what is it?
Right, exactly.
And something inside them knows that. Even though they were calling for her downstairs, now they've kind of come face to face with it, and they're like, Okay, a little more intimidating now.
The only time you wanted to be loud when you were scared was if you were singing like hymns, chapel songs.
I've had the thought, the older that I get, the more frequent it happens, but I've had the thought where I'm like, I'm the scary thing. I am the scary thing in the dark. You can't scare me because I'm the scary thing.
Yeah.
Like I try to put myself in that mindset and in those shoes.
You better be scared of me. I'm a coming.
Yeah, you better be scared of me. Whatever's in here.
I'm a coming. You better be scared.
And I mean, obviously, I would never act like that. And if I were in this situation, I would probably scream like a little child. But I don't know. Something about putting myself in that mindset helps. It's just the mental math of it. That's all.
Yeah.
That's it.
No, I like it. I like it.
It's changing the narrative.
I have to get like, angry. I get mad.
I tell myself a different story. I mean, yeah, that's part of it. Yeah, I get mad and I'm like, you're not going to scare me.
Yeah, when I hear noises at night and I go snooping around my house with my machete, like I do.
Like you do, frequently.
Done that a number of times since moving into this new house
Great.
where I'm unfamiliar with the noises and such. Yeah, I get mad and I'm like, yeah, don't f with me.
Mm-hmm. I'm the scary thing.
I am the thing you should be afraid of.
Following the tune, they discover a pink wallpapered room complete with ribbons and streamers, and a huge tiered table in the center holds a merry-go-round figurine, the source of the staccato music, surrounded by all kinds of candy and confection, including dozens of banana splits, all you can eat.
It's a party! Awesome!
Man, that's such a creepy detail. When the haunted house provides you with the thing that you were looking forward to, that spooks me the freak out.
See, again, this made me think of Hill House right away. There's this omniscience to it where it's like, is this spirit knowing and seeing everything? Is this house knowing and seeing everything? And I could see it being like the house knows and sees everything that happens within the walls of the house.
But how does it know what you were talking about in the car?
For how long has it decided that they are the victims?
I was just talking with my old professor Carolyn about the difference between Mike Flanagan's Hill House and Mike Flanagan's Bly Manor. And she said she preferred Bly Manor because she loves James's story better than she loved Jackson's Hill House. And she said because she loves a ghost story.
Turning of the screw.
Yes, the turn of the screw. She said that she likes a ghost story and Hill House to her was too demonic.
Which is weird because Hill House is actually meant to be more psychological.
Right.
It's actually more human.
So I told her I never saw it as demonic. I saw it as a psychological take on a haunted house.
Which I think is how Miss Jackson intended it.
I think that's how it was intended. But if you take it at face value, where the supernatural entity is real,
it felt too evil.
That's categorically demonic versus a ghost story. I felt that was interesting.
We've got more to say. Got more Hill House content coming at you very soon.
So that would be the only way the haunts of a house like Manor Thibodeau would know,
I guess,
is if it was more demonic.
Ugh.
Who knows? Who's to say?
I got the heebie-jeebies.
Ooh, the hoobity-joobities.
The heebs and jeebs.
Excellent, I'm starved.
Louise planned this, I know it. Come on out, Louise.
You never eat the food left for you in an estranged place. It's
not a place you know. I get that she's a cool babysitter.
It's the fairies, though.
Okay, like she's got her phrases and she's got her weirdness and she's taking them for treats and she's taking them to see Zebo and like she's cool. But I don't think any babysitter is quite this cool.
It's another Hansel and Gretel reference. You never eat the food you find in the woods.
Yeah, there you go.
Never, ever.
Tale as old as time.
And also the fairies. You don't eat fae food because then you can never leave, ever.
And maybe, just maybe, that's how it gets ya.
Also, it might turn to acid in your stomach.
Well.
Hey, let me try some.
Get your own. Look what you made me do now, dork.
And they watch in horror as the ice cream goes nuclear, smoking and melting through the carpet like acid. And in the smoke, a face appears. Hide! I mean, Gerard. I mean, Raymond, but we don't know that yet, so I'm going to keep calling him Gerard. They take off running, back down the stairs, out of the house, and down the dirt road.
Do you realize we could be dead right now? Good thing you were a pig and tried to eat my ice cream.
That's pretty dark.
So do
you realize we could be dead right now?
Yep, pig.
They said the quiet thing. They determine that the only logical course of action is to head back to the tavern and ask that guy for help, apparently not recognizing him from the acid drip.
I know!
Like acid trip.
The acid drip.
Like acid drip. I don't know. I'm doing my best.
Funny. Very clever.
But it's the same dude.
It's the same guy.
Same guy. Y'all don't see it?
I guess they didn't. That always throws me. I'm like, how do they not recognize him?
Maybe we saw that and they didn't. I really don't know, but they ran screaming from something and it could have just been the acid, I guess.
No.
I don't know.
They ran screaming because...
I might run screaming if my ice cream turned to acid and melted through the floor.
No, they saw him.
I think so too.
They saw him. They just didn't recognize him.
As they arrive, a tumbleweed, paid actor, blows past the place. But once inside, they find it's far more lively than they left it. Combining elements of a tavern and a speakeasy and a sock hop, the bar is now fully stocked. A gentleman in a suit is sat ladling punch from a bowl. A young boa-clad couple dances around the room, locked in a jazzy 20s-style dance embrace. And a teenage sweater and bow tie clad kid is posted up against a 50s style jukebox in the corner.
That's right, he is.
This is really giving Tower of Terror, isn't it?
Absolutely. Oh my God. I was thinking Tower of Terror the whole time.
I was like, DJ felt this. He was probably in pre-production for Tower of Terror, if not already producing it.
You think so? That was years later.
93. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. But this felt so Tower of Terror to me.
It did.
Here are all of these people, or, spoiler, spirits from different times
ghosties.
and different timelines and parts of life kind of all gathered together, enjoying the big band sounds of the jukebox,
That ragtime.
It was just very, very DJ McHale in this moment.
Yes, incredibly.
The music screeches to a halt as Claire tries to explain their predicament, and an older woman in a big Victorian skirt offers them some punch. We'll later learn that her name is Violet, and she's played by Una Kay, with a bunch of TV credits, including the Growing Pains movie and an appearance in Dr. Quinn Medicine Woman, among many others. They even brought her back to Are You Afraid of the Dark in 1999 to play Miss Fitzgerald in The Tale of Oblivion.
Okay.
So she definitely did something right in her time on this set. Boa Lady smiles condescendingly.
Relax, darling. That nanny of yours, she'll be fine once the sun sets.
And now you know that's not true.
And Claire, like us, is confused as all hell.
It was a screaming Mimi.
It was a screaming Mimi. That's all I could think.
Leap year.
And a full moon. We wouldn't be here otherwise, would we?
Victorian lady, lost in her own thoughts, says that Claire reminds her of her dear Jane.
So sad. So sad.
Pay no attention. They're just pulling your leg.
And now Bowtie Guy throws in his 2 cents.
Lighten up there, little sister. It's a party. The sun's going down and we can live.
Who lives in that house?
Better question is, who's the house living in?
All right, that's where it lost me. That's where the whole thing fell apart for me, and I was like, what are we talking about?
We tried. And I mean, I liked his 50s swing jazzy feeling.
Oh, he's super jive as well.
Jive. Yeah. He's real jive. And I liked it. But that line, I was a little, I was like, if, we could be generous. We could take this and
who's the house living in?
Okay, that's kind of pause, make you think. Just flip the script, Yeah.
Yeah. But more deep, ambiguous wisdom.
Yeah. Let's go with that. Let's live in that space, shall we?
Sure. Yeah. All right.
The dude from the bar pipes up.
It's Master Raymond's house. Has been for years. And for years to come. Want to buy a brush?
I always wondered, what the hell? You have something.
You wondered what the hell?
I can tell by your face.
I'm so thrilled to hear you say that, Christian.
What the
Darklings,
brush?
did you also wonder what the brush was going on here?
Please, brush us up on
nice.
the knowledge of this.
Stole that from my next paragraph, but it's fine. This was a joke or a reference that was admittedly lost on me, though it likely would not have been lost on our parents. And it led to a really fun aside.
Okay.
So I have to ask, are y'all ready for an Americana deep dive that you would only find on That's Pretty Dark?
I am so ready.
You've been waiting a while for me to break from this episode, and by golly, what a time to do it. Who would have thought that the brush salesman would be the thing?
I'm ready.
Who would have thought? Thanks to AmericaComesAlive.com, I learned about the Fuller Brush Man.
Okay.
Ringing any bells?
None. No bells.
The Fuller brush man is the source of much of what we know and have grown to dislike in modern pop culture of the traveling salesman.
Okay.
I love that I can tell you this and that you have no idea what's going on.
I'm on the edge of my seat right now. Pins and needles over here.
It all started with Alfred Fuller. Born in Nova Scotia, Canada, he made his way down to the U.S. for work following some of his 11 siblings, and in 1906, after trying and failing at many other trades, he took up work as a door-to-door brush salesman.
As Fuller honed his sales call technique, he found that politeness and being helpful were absolute necessities. While he generally offered to help with cleaning tasks so that he could demonstrate his various brushes, he sometimes took on whatever the lady of the house needed, hanging laundry, moving furniture, if it gave him a few minutes of conversation. In an article in American Heritage, 1986, Alfred Fuller is quoted as saying, "I washed babies with a back brush, swept stairs, cleaned radiators and milk bottles, dusted floors, anything that would prove the worth of what I had to sell."
After a short time of selling this other fellow's brushes, Fuller decided that this was the right business for him. He knew brushes could be easily and cheaply made, and his customers gave him all sorts of ideas for different brushes to create. Fuller was like the original, traveling, imposing infomercial.
Oh, I hate it so much.
And I, for one, commend DJ for including this little pop culture nod in his 90s way. A visit to Hartford, Connecticut convinced Fuller that these stately Victorian homes featuring intricate paneling and iron grillwork were all in need of dusting. And I thought this was a very funny comment from that article because it so readily explains why he is among this ragtag group of ghosties.
That makes so much sense.
He opted to make Hartford the base of his operation, and as his business grew, Fuller built a factory specifically for brush making, and it became one of the biggest factories in the country. By 1913, he also began using representatives to sell for him. The salesmen were assigned territories so that the families would get to know their Fuller brush man.
Oh my gosh.
And those in rural areas would look forward to his visits.
And one day they were breaking ground on a new construction site, and his son found a hidden box in the earth, and when he opened it up, it was the game Jumanji. And then his son disappeared for 30 years, and he came back as a fully grown woolly mammoth man who could fight lions and giant bugs and rhinoceros.
That's the little known Fuller son story.
Can't wait to cover Jumanji. Can't wait.
Coming. We know it's coming.
We know it's coming. It just left Netflix. It's the perfect time for us to not be able to find it on the internet.
Great. Amazing.
I love it.
Fuller had many techniques to pass along to his men to improve their sales. One of the first was how to manage bad weather. He taught his men to always wear overshoes a size too big. That way, if they got invited into the home, they could quickly and easily step out of the wet, snowy shoes. So it was ways to deter people from sending him away. You know what I mean? Like, I've thought of this, I've thought of this, I've thought of that. Dogs were an ever-present problem. No salesman wanted to be bitten, but if you kicked or hit the family pet, fierce as it may have been, the owner was sure to chase you away, giving no opportunity to make a sale.
Naturally.
Fuller taught the men to enter the yard with a firm and brisk step, looking like a friend of the family.
These people.
All the while keeping the sample case between themselves and the dogs.
I hate this guy. I hate him so much.
Philosophically, Fuller also taught his salespeople that they would probably get bitten about once every 4 years.
Oh my gosh.
Like once every leap year or so.
Jesus Christ.
But the Fuller dog system generally worked, and even the U.S. Post Office contacted Fuller for advice.
I was thinking mailmen. That's the stereotype, mailmen and dogs.
And if you hate him right now, you're about to hate him even more. Because
God.
the company's structure was excellent for maximizing profit. The salesmen were considered independent contractors, and therefore, Fuller did not have to pay Social Security, unemployment, or workers' compensation. The men, and they were, at this time, all men, paid for their own sample kits, including the cost of the handy brush, which is a vegetable brush that was offered free to households who invited the Fuller brushman in to demonstrate the brushes.
The free product. That is still a gimmick that's used today.
Free product with... I'm telling you. The company also employed Frank Stanley Beveridge for many years, who went on to start Stanley Home Products, which is now owned by Fuller, by the way.
Oh, no.
Which achieved fame for the party plan sales strategy. And Brownie Wise learned this system at Stanley Home Products and took it to Tupperware, where she essentially saved the company.
No. Tupperware parties. No.
The Fuller brushman became part of popular culture via movies and cartoon characters, including Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck, Mutt and Jeff, Blondie, as well as the Big Bad Wolf, who appeared as the Fuller Brush Man as a ploy to try and get into the home of the Three Little Pigs in Disney's Silly Symphony.
I remember that.
That was the Fuller Brush Man.
I remember. I cannot believe that reference.
During his peak years of popularity, he was often featured in off-color jokes. Not hard to figure out why.
Sure.
And lots of famous men were Fuller Brush men for a time, including evangelist Billy Graham and Paul Rubens, a.k.a. Pee Wee Herman.
That's incredible. How in the world do I not know this information already?
As I read paragraphs upon paragraphs, all I could think was, how do I not know this? How don't I know it?
The Fuller Brush Man, of course.
Like, it has been around us in our lives, all millennials, not just you and I.
Yeah.
This has been around us in our lives forever.
This is just as common as the pie cooling in the windowsill.
This is just like the pie cooling. I'm so glad you said that. I loved talking about that during that Courage episode.
History
this is
at its finest.
Americana. This is, like I said, it's the original infomercial.
Yes.
It is where all of the salesy, gimmicky techniques for selling products came from.
This is where the shitty door-to-door salesman came from?
All of them.
Was the Fuller Brush Man?
And you can hate on him all you want,
Lord.
but he was so successful. And it is mind-blowing to me that this man who started this really simple concept in 1906, when like all of his other trades failed, is still basically in our homes today via television commercials and everything else, even party plan sales.
The ShamWow.
OxyClean.
OxyClean.
The demonstration as part of the sale.
Right. No, I had, when I got brand new windows in my house, I had the window salesman give me a demonstration of how the window would work.
You talked about your window sales guy. You talked about it on the show.
And then my second time, which was a horrible experience, was the gutter salesman.
Okay, gotcha.
And I almost put my fire poker through his fucking eye.
He learned something from Mr. Fuller's system.
From the Fuller Brush Man.
There is a lot of other fascinating history that I wish I had time to talk about, because there was like a time later on down the road when one of his sons took over and then another son took over because the other son died in a car accident and all these things. They were trying, then they were like, we got to do something new to keep up. And then they introduced like women and they tried to hire women, but the men at the company hated the women that they hired, so it didn't work. So then I cannot remember her name right now for the life of me, and that is my fault and I'm so sorry. But then they started the same type of model with Avon, selling makeup.
Oh my God,
Ding dong, Avon calling. Like they did the same thing, but with women for a product for women.
That's how we got Edward Scissorhands.
And that's how we got Edward Scissorhands.
I mean, we discussed this in the Brave Little Toaster with the Kirby vacuum cleaner. About how they were door to door and how they're still the best product on the market.
I was just talking recently with someone about how like jingles from commercials can age you or date you. Like if you know a certain commercial, you're going to know, like they're meant to stick in your head. They want to make money. They want to sell. So they're writing and creating these pieces of content with the intention that they stay.
Once you pop, you can't stop.
We quote things all the time on the show just because they come into our heads as we're talking through our scripts. Like, as much as I hate to say it and admit it, we are in this capitalistic system where marketing is part of pop culture. It is part of our psyche. It's part of, you know, at our age and like where we are in the timeline, it's part of how we know and relate with the world.
Absolutely.
All of these tropes have built on each other over time, and it's just part of our worldview now. And so anytime I can look at the history of it and understand it, it fascinates me. But at the same time, you kind of get to look behind the curtain and see where everything came from.
It's behind the curtain. We get to see the steps that we all took as a society.
And then you're like, I've been fooled for 100 years by...
Well, it's it's seeing how we were led down the path to the simulation that we live in. Because advertising, jingles, the door-to-door salesman, all this stuff, these are not just products of a simulation, they're part of the infrastructure that has built the box around us, the Americana box.
The big box, if you will.
The bubble. Yes, the big box that we all live in that makes us feel like things are familiar and safe and
also
comfortable.
like we need to buy and consume and that products will fix everything about our lives.
It has now become a timeless thing for our generation because we don't know a time before the door-to-door salesman.
Right.
We just know the evolution of it, which is the mass marketing, the over stimulation.
To the point where nowadays it's very rare that you're going to get anywhere door-to-door sales.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Because people are now wary of you after 100 years of this happening. Yeah. And of course, door-to-door sales didn't really start with Fuller, right? Like, people would take covered wagons to different places, and throughout the 1800s, you were always peddling your wares, and commerce and sale and bartering has always been a part of society, of all kinds, and especially America.
Yep.
But this was just kind of the turning point to the modern version of door-to-door sales, you know?
Right.
It amazes me, though, that we can zoom out and look and see it all from a bird's eye view, just like that.
Fuller Brush Man.
Thank you, DJ McHale. Because what's funny is that wasn't a joke for us, right? Because I get it now, but even and maybe perhaps as a kid, because of Silly Symphonies and all these other things, I might have been like, oh yeah, guys are always selling brushes. Don't know why. But like, guys sell brushes. Okay. Like, that's something that maybe I would have latched onto as a kid, and maybe some of our, Darkling friends would have recognized. But our parents
would have totally
watching behind us or over our shoulder would have been like, ah ha ha, the Fuller Brush Man,
That's clever.
Because that's what she said of a certain time.
Yeah.
Get your Fuller brushed. How full was your brush? It was kind of like that, because they were coming into these women's homes. Like every porno starts.
The milkman's my father, right? That's a joke from Big Fish.
Yeah.
He said, I had a dream last night that my father was going to drop dead, and then the milkman died on the doorstep the next day. But that's also like the whole, Mad Men, the door-to-door air conditioning salesman. She fantasizes about inviting him in. And sleeping with him.
Such a common thing.
That happened in Tales from the Crypt. The bored housewife fantasizes about sleeping with like the cable man.
So imagine, yes, this is a trope, right? This is a concept that is in everything, and we think about it, and it's just like a thing.
Yeah.
And then imagine that either it started, which I don't really know exactly where that started, or was made worse by the fact that these Fuller Brushmen were taught, go in, help the lady with her dishes, help the lady with her laundry, help the lady, be helpful, be endearing.
Be helpful, be the man she wishes she had around.
Be the man that she wishes.
Make her want to sleep with you.
Then sell her a
brush.
And she'll buy it.
Man, sex sells.
Sex sells, and it's kind of funny to imagine this kind of flip of the script. But then
it's actually flipped now.
Like I said, if you go to the future of the company and how they tried to hire women, and the men all actually hated women, and how it was all really misogynistic and terrible.
Well, that's part of how the opioid epidemic started too, is they hired young, attractive females to sell the product to doctors.
It's still, pharmacy reps are notoriously still very attractive in a lot of cases.
We've seen New Girl, Megan Fox.
Love and Other Drugs, the Anne Hathaway movie.
It's such a common thing. It's so crazy. I can't help but think of the guy in my youth group growing up, though, that tried to get all the guys in our youth group to sell knives.
Oh, that was a huge thing for us, people our age. Like, I knew people that did it.
Yeah.
Several.
He started dressing really nice and like coming to youth group all fancy and like telling us how much money he makes and how he could get us all jobs.
Because, we haven't even touched on it, but this is also kind of, there's the MLM aspect that came along somewhere down the line. And it started here because, hey, you got to buy your own sample kit, but you're going to make a lot of money as a Fuller Brush man. You got to buy your own handy brushes, but...
That's so crazy to me.
Wild. All from this one little moment. Do you want to buy a brush? The kids hightail it, claiming they're a bunch of Looney Tunes. They're caricatures of the eras, really, these former house guests.
Yeah.
And yes, not only am I confused by their appearance in the tavern that's not tied to the house, but I take a bit of issue with the quick succession of the eras that they represent, knowing the frequency or infrequency, really, of leap day full moons. But we can, of course, suspend our disbelief.
Yeah.
Still stumped on what to do, Claire and Andrew suddenly remember that they plan to use the phone to call their parents.
Right, we gotta go back inside.
And this, of course, gave an excuse to exit and re-enter. And now the inhabitants have all disappeared, leaving the same empty tavern that they found originally.
I guess it's part of the property. All this land is owned by the same
Hill House.
person back in the day. It's Hill House, right?
Deciding the only thing to do is to return to Master Raymond's to find Louise, they journey back. These kids got quite the workout
Back and
this
forth,
episode.
back and forth.
Back and forth, in and out, up and down, back and forth.
Because kids don't walk; they have to run everywhere they
Everywhere.
go. So
It's the default setting, like a video game.
Mhm.
This time, they hear Louise's voice echoing distantly.
Louise, is that you? Over here. In the living room.
And Louise's reflection speaks to them from a mirror over the mantel.
I'm over here. Louise? I'm upstairs. Please, come help me. Please.
So eerie.
They look on as her face then morphs into Master Raymond's. And he's all, will you defeat them, your demons, and all the non-believers?
Oh my God.
The plans that they have made.
That guy, he's from the tavern. He must be Master Raymond.
Who cares? He was a creep, remember? Now he's a ghost creep.
And at this point, Andrew is ready to check out, and we can't blame him. He wants Claire to go on without him, but she finally admits it. She needs his help.
She needs his help. There's the sibling bond.
You're smart. You think of the things that I don't.
They had to pepper in some sibling redemption, like we were saying.
Got to.
And honestly, there is something kind of endearing about this, because everyone has their own unique perspective and way of problem solving. And it can probably be said for even my least favorite of coworkers or co-conspirators, they certainly do think of things that I don't.
It's true.
It takes all kinds, you know? Claire then says,
Come on. We have to look upstairs.
with the kind of foggy, knowing conviction that you only find in dreams. Why do we have to do this? I don't know. We just do. That's what we have to do. I know
Gotta
it
do
because
it.
I'm in a dream, and that's what I know. And horror movies.
And horror films.
Now holding hands, they tiptoe down the hallway of frames, and as they pass each one, we see a ghostly depiction of the souls that came before. Our friends from the speakeasy, or the soda fountain, or whatever it's supposed to be.
Whatever it was.
We've got 50s fella, flapper couple, and perhaps the Alfred Fuller himself.
Could be.
Don't know. He passed in 1973, which was just a year after the last full leap moon.
This was the part where I was like, this is totally the Haunted Mansion ride.
Oh, yeah. When you're passing
This is all the picture frames.
through the picture frames.
Yeah.
It was, yes, brilliant.
This is it. The ghost appeared.
It's DJ McHale does Haunted Mansion instead
Yes.
of Tower of Terror, which...
God, please give DJ a Haunted Mansion feature. It'd be so much better than
we would love it.
Shit they keep putting out.
An open door reveals a nursery, complete with creepy dolls and Louise humming and rocking a bundled baby in a rocking chair.
Louise? Is that you? Of course, little schmunkin' head. Come in. It really is you. What happened?
Don't worry, I'm okay. I found this little baby and we can go just as soon as he's asleep.
And to that I say, what the actual...
Yeah, but it's it's giving Robert California vibes.
That is such Robert California vibes.
With his
Oh my
Halloween
God.
ghost story with the snake in
Yes,
the crib.
the snake in the crib.
And the baby
Nailed it.
said something about
Nailed it.
bitch or whatever he
Yeah.
said at the end of that ghost story.
Yep.
Is it not so similar?
That is eerily similar. And it's such nightmare logic, this whole moment.
It is.
I thought for sure that you were hurt. Or even...
No.
And we're assuming dead. She said dead earlier, but
Yes.
she can't say it a second time.
Can't say it twice.
I'm fine. I've never been better.
Oh, it's so creepy. Oh.
Louisa's voice then drops a few octaves and bellows,
Here, this is for you.
"Here, this is for you!" Bitch. Tossing the bundle at Claire, who drops it, screaming. And it's not a baby at all, but I think a ball python.
Bundle of snakes.
And this, for me, is where it began to feel like the distilling down of a ton of different horror tropes that I've seen before for kid viewing.
Yep.
It's not a bad thing necessarily, but it just feels like it's all rolled into one at this moment for the sake of the scare.
Mm-hmm. Creepy dolls.
Creepy dolls, snakes,
Ghost in the mirror, the picture frames.
the spirit possession with the deep voice. Like, have we seen this on Are You Afraid of the Dark before? This possession? Because there's dark music where there's some, like...
Yeah.
There's definitely, like, malevolence,
But I also think that that's not actually her
That's what I was
body.
just about to say. There's this air of possession, but I don't think it's actually Louise. this is Gerard or Raymond all along.
Right, he's wearing a mask.
Wearing a mask.
It's a disguise.
Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah.
He's just disguising himself, like we've talked about with all of the fae folk and everything like that. He's using what is familiar and what they know to get closer to them to then land his scare or plan or whatever he's cooking up. We don't know.
Yeah, she's unconscious in the attic or wherever she is.
Yes.
But behind the hidden room, whatever, the hidden door.
In the hidden room.
The false door.
Andrew tries to run, but the front door is stuck. And Claire, left alone and reeling in the hallway, comes face to face with the same Victorian lady, confined to a frame, bemoaning her dear sweet Jane. Backed into a corner, Claire hears Louise's voice and realizes it's coming from a stone bust on the wall.
This part's so creepy.
In an attempt to free her, she pulls on the arms of this chillingly human candelabra, and the wall rotates into darkness as if the house has consumed her.
Her face in the wall is very much like Pip from Halloween Tree.
Yeah, there's that like familiarity to it, like you know who it's supposed to be, but it's also not, which is again very on theme. The front door then blows open for Andrew. Perhaps maybe because the house is now satisfied.
So creepy.
And this fortunate happening reminds him that Raymond hates drafts.
Shut that door. He hates drafts.
Newly armed with his battery-powered fan, Andrew races back up the stairs. And in this secret space behind the walls, Claire finds Louise seated on a throne of sorts, eyes closed, and she's less present than we would like her to be.
Yeah, it's very eerie, very absent.
I'm on the other side of the wall. I found Louise. Go to the candlesticks. Pull on them. Hard. Hurry.
And when he tries, Raymond's face appears in the bust instead of Louise's. And to really just drive this idea home, he attacks with the fan.
Instantly works.
Nice try, but you're no match for my amusement park souvenir. Sucker.
I already beat Zebo once. I can beat you.
When they turn back to face Louise, Raymond is flanking her, explaining that when the sun sets, her soul will be mine.
Her energy will keep me alive. Keep this house alive. And she'll be part of us. Forever. All
right, Hill House. So, consuming the energies of the living, luring in unsuspecting.
Oh, this is where I really stopped to take it all in with all of you, dear Darklings and Christian. The Haunting of Hill House is such a classic for a reason.
Let's hear it.
And in this moment, we can't help but make this connection overtly because there is such a creepy element to the collective. It's part of us. She's part of us now. And the us
we are legion.
Is the house, because he even says himself, it keeps the house alive.
Right.
It could, of course, be metaphorical, the way that you or I might say that our house is alive with memories or what have you. But it just really feels in this moment like the haunting goes beyond the spirits within the house.
Right.
Fictional haunted houses are a dime a dozen, a cornerstone of the horror genre, where a spirit stays within a house and makes life miserable for its inhabitants. But in this slightly more specific and slightly less common spin, the house itself, maybe along with, in tandem with, the ghosties, can be seen as the antagonist.
Mm-hmm.
The 2006 animated film Monster House comes to mind.
So good. I love that movie.
And I know I quoted it earlier and we keep referencing it, but here we have to make the overt Hill House connection. It is Shirley Jackson's 1959 novel, later adapted for Netflix by Mike Flanagan.
Don't forget the 1999 The Haunting, or whatever year that was.
And there was also the 1999 horror film, The Haunting.
The 60s one was genuinely scary.
The one from the 60s was great.
The 90s one is
goofy.
Terrible, but I loved it as a kid.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Mike Flanagan's is a gem to be preserved.
But the seed of this idea was planted by Shirley Jackson. And it was one of the first pieces of fiction to make this jump. And I think, whether supernatural or psychological, the idea that something otherworldly about this one place can so affect a psyche that it might cause them to dip into the surreal, or even scarier, that brick and mortar walls can indeed digest souls and hold echoes and spirits, is a haunting prospect.
Yes, it is.
Have you seen, it just came out, Tom Hanks' The movie Here.
Where their house is every generation of themselves?
Mm-hmm.
No, I'll never watch that movie.
It's a gimmick. I mean, it's totally a gimmick. Like,
no, I'll never see it because I can't handle
the CGI.
No, I can't handle time passing that quickly.
Yeah, it's a lot.
I'll never be able to watch it.
I think you should try it at some point if
Nope.
if the right mood strikes you.
You can think that. It's not true, though. You're entitled to your opinion.
But the sociology of this movie was fascinating to me, and so I bought into the gimmickus, if you will. And you're seeing one perspective, one camera angle, and I thought that would bother me, but it didn't. It's intense, but you see it cycle through time.
I know.
And I kept thinking of that movie as I watched this because, again, it's this one place in time, in space, where all of this energy, all of this life is lived, and then all of this energy is captured in a way.
Yeah.
And it was just very parallel in my mind.
You should watch Ghost Story.
You've said that before. But on the subject of Hill House, while we're here, and I mostly wanted to include this detail for you, Christian, but other Hill House fans may be interested to know it as well, that according to a Mental Floss article, before she began writing The Haunting of Hill House, Shirley Jackson searched magazines and newspapers for photos of houses that seemed haunted.
Yeah.
During her research, she stumbled upon a photo of a house in California that had a particular air of disease and decay, quoting.
Ooh, all right.
She was so struck by it that she asked her mother, who lived in California, if she could find any additional information about the house. Her mother's response shocked Jackson. Not only was she familiar with the house, but Jackson's own great-grandfather had built it.
No way.
And after standing empty for many years, the house had been set on fire, possibly by a group of townspeople. For what reason? I don't know. The article didn't say.
Oh, we have always lived in the castle.
So I don't understand what it is that drew her to that house, but there is something else happening.
There are patterns and vibrations in this universe, and oh my God.
It gave me shivers when I read it. And some houses just have it.
They do.
And Master Raymond's is no exception.
It's almost like it spoke to her.
It's almost like it did.
It was calling to her.
The
from
house
the
itself.
Mm-hmm.
Meep. Okay.
Man.
In the case of this episode, as in Mike Flanagan's Hill House, though more dependent on that cyclical leap year timing,
yes,
these spirits have seemingly conspired with the house to bring in more innocent victims to their permanent house of ghostly horrors.
Indeed.
And it's pretty dark.
And they must feed once every leap year, or leap day, leap night.
Leap night.
You're a monster.
I would choose my words carefully if I were you. Or you might be next.
Luckily, though, there's a blacked out window in this secret room that's behind the wall,
God.
which basically makes this the Winchester Mansion. And for all I know, maybe that was an intentional nod. And there's also a giant vase poised and ready for Andrew to grab and throw through it.
Don't touch that!
Take a hike, buddy.
And the wind from this shattered window buys them enough time to ride the rotating wall once again, a very tight squeeze for the three of them, and make it all the way back to the front door, which Raymond appears through.
There's no use in running. The sun is almost down. She is mine.
And one day she'll leave you a phantom to lead you in the summer to join the Black Parade. Okay, that's the last time I'm going to do the joke. I couldn't help myself.
Oh, I know what I'm listening to for the rest of the night.
Andrew brandishes his fan, but Raymond is unfazed this time.
Silly boy with silly toys. You won't fool me again.
He tells Louise to come with him, and when they protest, he hypnotizes Claire too. So just conceptually, if you haven't seen this episode or you haven't seen it in a while, just picture like, I don't know, Black Parade, Gerard Way, but with mind control powers. That's what's happening in this moment.
Wait, Gerard Way doesn't have mind control powers?
I hoped that you would say that.
Kind of always felt like
I
you
hoped
did.
that you would say that.
Run along, little boy. They're mine now.
But in the style of a scolding nanny, Violet, the Victorian lady, emerges from the walls, exclaiming that she won't let him do this.
Violet, what are you doing?
And his replies to her, I don't know if it was just me, suddenly feel petulant and childish, like Jonah from Veep.
Yes.
Dare go against my wishes. They're so young. This is not your concern. Return to the walls.
This is not your concern, mother. Leave me to my friends in my basement. Like, return to the walls, you know? Like, it just felt that way to me.
He's such an incel, this douche. That's the thing. This guy's a douchebag.
Yeah, I really shouldn't be elevating him to the level of Gerard Way.
No, yeah, what kind of comparison is that?
It's just the jacket, okay, y'all? It's just the jacket.
He's insulted. Gerard, somewhere, someplace.
Please,
somehow.
God, Gerard, don't hate me.
He's insulted.
I would die.
He's sitting in his like funeral home style manor, his parlor, sipping on a nice brandy, a cognac somewhere, and he just looks around and goes, I feel insulted.
All of a sudden, why? Yeah, he's not even listening. He
why
just
do I feel
feels
like
it in
someone's
the ether.
talking shit about me
God,
somewhere?
it's
on
not
a
shit.
podcast?
It's not shit. We love you.
We do. We do.
Because Violet, as we've now been told a number of times, is so reminded of her dear Jane, she feels compelled to save them. So she opens the door, letting the light and the draft in. Raymond then disappears in a cloud of smoke, but the effects were pretty impressive. They used some CG money on this episode. They really did. I could tell that they were looking for ways to write in effects. And they
Season 2
looked good.
looks better than Season 1.
Yeah.
We'll give it that.
But as this happens, the spell on Louise and Claire is broken. Violet urges them to leave, and they celebrate as the engine turns over, peeling out of there. But not even 10 seconds behind them, another unsuspecting victim, or motorist, arrives, with his car mysteriously dying in the same place. And as is film trope, he has to get out to study the map.
With his map, yeah. Gotta lay it on the hood, you know.
He has to get out, lay it on the hood of the car.
You have to brood over the map. Man, you know what would have made this so perfect is if that had been like some road rage asshole who like cut them off earlier in the episode.
Yeah, and he got his comeuppance.
Just desserts. His comeuppance.
That would have been better.
Comeuppance, exactly.
Oh, that would have been better.
How fun would that have been?
Dang. Good call.
You taking notes, DJ? You need some input? You need some advice?
Time machine. Cut. Back to Betty Ann in her element around the campfire, emphatically warning others as she dons the mask once again.
The house still stands, and to this day, people still disappear when the moon is full on February 29th.
Within, walls continued upright, bricks met neatly, floors were firm, and doors were sensibly shut, and silence lay steadily against the wood and stone of Manoir Thibodeau, and whatever walked there
walked alone.
Walked alone.
Time to go.
You go first.
The Midnight Society argues nervously about who should leave first, none wanting to go alone. And I'm like, how about you all go together?
I'll go after
How about you
Gary
just
goes.
Yeah,
go together?
they're all like,
No, not me. You. I'll go after Gary
They
goes.
always leave together. They never leave separately. They arrive separately. They leave together. That's how this works.
Yeah, it's true. So, we've now arrived in reality. And although I struggled to find any direct stories about leap day, leap year soul capturing, I do think it is high time that we get leap year recorded in the That's Pretty Dark superstition annals. And I do wish that we had done so last year.
I do too. I feel
We're still
like
in February, though, so we did something right.
I feel like last year we lamented that and we said, man, why don't we have a leap year, something to discuss this year?
Here we are.
And little did
Year
we
late
know,
and $1 short.
there was a whole episode waiting for us.
So, calendars are a pretty confusing business when you get down to it, and not just because I'm bad at math, which I am.
Yes, me as well.
Whether adopting a lunar or a solar model, societies across the millennia have often disagreed on how best to play our planetary position and most accurately mark the passage of time.
We don't know what year it is. We just think we do.
We only ever think we do. Because we only ever think we do, because we only ever just agree on it and move forward.
Yeah. Never mind the Dark Ages where they were recorded history is lost to time. We don't know how many years it actually was.
I forget that our Gregorian calendar has actually only been in use since the 1500s, decreed by Pope Gregory XIII. And due to our desire to stay in sync with the seasons, it is actually a lot more fluid than you might think. So, yeah, we are in a simulation.
Absolutely.
As a refresher, orbitaltoday.com explains why leap years are necessary. Earth takes around 365.25 days to orbit the sun, which is a bit more than our calendar's neat 365 days. And since our calendar doesn't consider this extra quarter day, it starts drifting out of sync with the solar year.
Yeah.
So to fix this, we throw in a leap day every 4 years, and this brings our calendar back in line with the seasons.
It's wild.
And if we didn't have leap days, the calendar would be off by about 5 hours and 48 minutes and 45 seconds each year. And after 100 years, that would lead to a whopping 25-day difference in the seasons.
Oh my God.
So the seasons wouldn't be what we know them to be at all. Sort of like a malevolent entity or house eating a few people every few years to stay satiated and therefore less threatening to the rest of the general population.
A few hours,
Anyone?
a whole person. What's the difference?
What's the difference after all? Like Friday the 13th, leap year / leap day superstitions vary significantly culture to culture, with some regarding them as lucky and others not so much. In Scotland, there's a saying that goes, "Leap year was never a good sheep year," hinting at the belief that leap years could lead to less favorable conditions for livestock and possibly wool production. In Germany, the proverb, "Leap year will be a cold year," casts a chilly prediction over the entire year, warning of harsher weather that could negatively impact all forms of agriculture. From delayed planting seasons to frostbitten crops, the implication is that leap year's extra day might bring more than just an additional 24 hours to the calendar. The Washington Post says, in Greece, February 29th is considered to be so unlucky that couples are discouraged from marrying on the date. Those who do are warned that they will divorce and will never find true love.
Oh.
This superstition probably came from the Romans, who conquered Greece in 146 BC and brought with them the belief that February was the month of the dead. An extra date meant one more day when the god of the underworld, Pluto to the Romans, Hades to the Greeks, was free to walk the earth.
Yeah.
Some say that the Salem witch trials began on Leap Day, with the accusations of Sarah Good, Sarah Osborne, and Tituba. But most sources cite March 1st.
I see.
Who knows? We're in a simulation. It was probably Leap Day somewhere. The most widely known Leap Day tradition isn't about spirits or haunted houses or the occult exactly, although some might conflate one with the other. It's about reversing gender roles.
Is it?
In Ireland and Britain, it's a tradition that women may propose marriage only in leap years. And in some places, the tradition was tightened just to Leap Day. While it's been claimed that the tradition was initiated by St. Patrick or Bridget of Kildare in the 5th century Ireland, there is no definitive account. But it's said that Bridget immediately proposed to Patrick after he decided to allow women to do so, but Patrick turned her down, giving her a kiss on the cheek and a silk dress. And from this legend comes the tradition of a fine to be paid if the woman who proposes is declined.
She has to pay it?
He has to pay it for declining her.
Oh, I'd just be proposing everywhere, making money.
Not a bad scam. Supposedly, a 1288 law by Queen Margaret of Scotland, who was at the time age 5, officially imposed the fine. Due to another tradition that women could wear breeches in leap years, some parts of Finland deemed appropriate compensation to be fabric to make a skirt, essentially saying, "Thanks but no thanks, stick to your station, put your skirt back on."
Yeah.
In Denmark, the cost is said to be a dozen pairs of gloves, apparently to hide the shame that comes with the declaration of love not resulting in a wedding ring.
Wow.
It's all over the map, really.
Yeah.
Literally and figuratively. Did you ever play Opposite Day as a kid?
Of course. Who didn't? You'd have to be a sociopath not to play Opposite Day.
Well, my sister was obsessed with this concept, and I think it was mostly to be able to like say or do things that she normally couldn't otherwise do without getting in trouble.
I fucking hate your guts.
For example, telling me, "I hate you, but it's opposite day," or perhaps more cruelly, "I love you, but it's opposite day."
Yeah.
It seems that this was basically the UK's outlook on Leap Day, making it socially acceptable in this surreal segment of the calendar to defy societal norms and gender expectations and get a little whimsical with it. I don't know if we could quite call it progressive, with their staunch binary being the precipitating condition. But hey, like we said at the beginning of this episode, it gave me a bunch of Irish fantasies via one of my favorite films in college, Leap Year, with Amy Adams.
Yeah.
Declan was dreaming.
I watched that movie a lot.
Me too.
Adam Scott, speaking of douchebags, his character is the worst in that movie.
He is pretty rough.
Oh my God.
Pretty bad. It's not hard to make Declan look good, though.
No, I mean,
Woof.
like, he didn't need much work at all.
To me, the idea that a leap month is the month of the dead and a time for the gods of the underworld to flourish is probably the closest we get to historical relevance for this specific episode of Are You Afraid of the Dark? And I could be wrong. but I think it's leveraged mostly just to give us the impression that the veil is thin, to get us to a liminal place with a limited window.
Right.
And maybe they just wanted something a little more novel than Halloween or All Saints Day or New Year's or even Friday the 13th.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like they could have used any of the above and achieved a similar effect.
Low-hanging fruit.
But hey, nobody was doing it with Leap Day, and Leap Day is about as liminal as days come.
This is true. It like doesn't exist.
It essentially doesn't exist.
Every 4 years.
So I like that they did it this way, even if it's not tied directly into folklore that we know of right now. All we needed to know was that in this place and in this moment, the spirits were close and getting closer.
Sadie Hawkins dance in my khaki pants.
There's nothing better. Oh. And with that one last tangent, it's time for the Scareometer!
Scareometer! Oh my gosh.
Do you like my sweater?
I forgot we were doing it.
Scareometer. Christian, what did you give this episode?
I don't know. I would say I'd have to give it like a 5 because there were moments of it that I thought were pretty creepy because they were supposed to be. Like,
yes.
here's a horror trope. Here's a gimmick. Here's a creepy doll. She's borderline nursing a baby in a haunted house. That image, a woman who has disappeared, rocking a child to sleep in the upstairs room of a haunted house that she just found, it creeps me the f*** out.
Wasn't there a rocking chair in Hill House? Wasn't there a rocking chair scene somewhere? If not, there has been in something similar, and it drove me crazy trying to figure out what it was, but I couldn't think of it.
Maybe a rocking chair scene in like...
I Googled.
Insidious or like...
I'm sure. Poltergeist or something.
Maybe The Others. Have you seen that one?
Yeah,
seen that,
but it's been a long time.
Something like that. Something in that vein.
Maybe.
Yeah, rocking chairs are creepy. Women
and common
in rocking chairs are really spooky when you don't expect them to be there.
When you don't expect them to be there, when they shouldn't be there because they're in an abandoned house on the side of the road and there's no reason for her to be rocking a baby in a house that isn't hers.
But yeah, there are moments in this episode that are like a 7 or 8.
And just this conversation reveals why it is so scary, because there's something deep in our psyche about it. Like,
yeah,
it's kind of where we all started, you know? And it's familiar in that eerie sort of way.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, when I was coming up in a haunted house and I was a baby and some strangers that got stranded were
and the snake in your
pretending
crib
to cradle me to sleep. Yeah.
Called you a bitch.
Yeah. Those fucking snakes, man. Getting in my bed telling me what to do. Yeah. I don't know. So I guess I say a 5 because like middle of the road, the rest of it's just sort of like, what?
Yeah, kind of my thoughts exactly.
What's happening?
Like you said, there were quite a few disturbing visuals.
Tumbleweeds?
There is some true like malevolence that is not present in every Are You Afraid of the Dark episode. You know, there was that air that isn't there all the time.
Right.
And there was lots of that like eerie roadside ghost nostalgia.
I do love that kind of thing. Me too. It's very Alvin Schwartz.
Yep.
I really enjoy it. Maybe I should give it a 6 because there are so many elements to it that I like.
There are so many elements to it that I like, but there are just so many elements to it. And like we talked about, that really creepy implied omniscience. The ghost knows and sees all. The spirit knows and sees all. The house, the land, whatever it is. The land is possessed at its core. It's a lot.
Haunted land. I'm a big fan of haunted land.
How did Raymond know about the banana splits?
How did he know?
But in my opinion, and my opinion only, the little quirks like the fan and the nicknames and the awkward blocking and the, back and forth, it was just enough to keep me laughing, which landed me somewhere around a 4 or a 5.
I feel that.
And maybe it was by design. Maybe that's why all of those things were included.
Had to keep it light. I mean, as a kid, I probably would have seen past all that and been like, whoa, creepy. I mean...
And I guess all baddies have to have a kryptonite, but this dude can control minds and he's telekinetic and the wind is what gets him. He is the fucking wind.
If you fart too close to him, he's going to dissipate. Don't exhale in grief.
Yeah, don't breathe too hard. He hates drafts.
He's just going to vanish.
I don't know.
I loathe drafts. Any villain that is like insulted by your harsh words, like his ego is hurt so much that he has to threaten you with death because you were so disrespectful, you lose credence in my book. You lose your scare factor.
You lose points. I'm with you. And if you're if your fellow ghost host scolding you puts you into a mommy dearest, like, I don't know what it was, but it just was different after that for me.
Yeah.
I think you lose points there too.
He's an impetuous child.
As a baddie.
Yeah. Not so bad after all.
But that's it. That's the Whispering Walls. That's what I have to bring you today.
Whispered?
They whispered. We heard some whispers. We heard some screams.
Said some
we heard
really
some
weird
distant
things.
Piano notes that any millennial would recognize instantaneously.
I love it. I do love, the Haunted Mansion empty picture frame component, the whole hidden wall.
Yeah.
I love all those gimmicks.
I could really get on board with the ghosts of eras past, like every 4 years there's a ghost. If it was just leap day ghosts and not leap day full moon ghosts, because leap day full moons are only one every 100 years-ish.
Right.
So
into the graveyard on a full moon.
Into the graveyard or into our inbox. If you guys want to get in touch with us, you can email us at that'sprettydarkpodcast@gmail.com. If you want more of our nonsense in your lives, not sure why at this point you would, but you can find us on social media at That's Pretty Dark Podcast on Instagram. We're still on TikTok.
Or you can haunt us with your $5 a month on Patreon.
You could do that too.
Patreon.com/TPD podcast.
And we would love to have you there.
Ghost stories.
We would love to have you there. Everybody that's contributing to the Patreon
Bonus
is
content.
ensuring that we continue making this pretty darkness go round. And we are so grateful for all of you who join us there.
And you help us hire an editor so I can have a life.
Think of it as our haunted house is our Patreon, and you are the spirits we're gathering.
We want to feed off.
But you don't have to die. Win-win.
Month to month.
Win.
And then, you can leave whenever you want. Like, you don't have to, even stay if you don't want.
It's true.
Just come hang out. Have a good time.
What else you got?
That's it.
Anything? What am I forgetting?
I think that's it. I think we just, it's time to get started on the next episode.
Well.
Gotta get going.
I think, dear Darklings, one way or another, we'll carry on. We'll carry on. And though you're dead and gone, believe me, your memory will carry on.
No. Oh, that's great. That's good stuff. Thanks for doing the research. Thanks for bringing all that wonderful leap year content.
Honored to do it.
I cannot believe I didn't know about the Fuller Brush Man.
Me neither.
The Brushman.
The Brushman.
Can't believe I didn't know about leap year folklore, even though I've seen the leap year movie. Wasn't that the whole point, that she could propose because it was a leap year? Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
That was the whole point. Wow, I feel like I should watch that movie again, but also I feel like it's safely tucked away in the past.
No, do it. Solid.
Where
Enemies to lovers. Solid.
Every time. Gets you every time.
One bed.
Where do you think chickens come from?
Crunch.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening. We'll catch y'all next time.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye. That's Pretty Dark Podcast is produced by Kaylin Andrews and me, Christian Baxter Mott.
With music by Jonathan Simmons and cover design by Halftone Horror.
You can support our show by supporting our sponsors, or go to patreon.com/TPD podcast to unlock all the Pretty Dark bonus content we have in store.
Please share your experiences and let us know what shows, films, or villains still haunt you from childhood on our socials or at that'sprettydarkpodcast@gmail.com.
For all other information, visit our website, that'sprettydark.com.
Remember, you're never really alone.
So, until next time, sweet dreams, everyone.
I loathe drafts.